now back with you. On this video I will be talking about Succession Season 4 Episode 2. The episode is called Rehearsal. Full spoilers from the start of this review. So really strong episode, kicking on from last week's solid opener. And big one for Logan this week because he starts hitting back at the siblings and them winning the Pierce deal from last week. We sort of see things not exactly going for plan with them as some of their investors or potential deals fall through or get cold feet. Now some of that is down to Logan and his tactics, or that's how I read it anyway, but there's other stuff where people do seem to be nervous about their aggressive tactics towards Logan and they feel they're making it too personal, which I've got to say I would agree with that. So there's definitely some pushbacks on the siblings in this episode, and you can see Logan starting to form an attacking response. And because of the way the episode ends, clearly he's got big plans in firing back at his children. But yeah, really strong episode once again. But you get some moments like you get when the helicopter, when they're supposed to be going off to like a big meeting, and their helicopter won't take off, and it's obvious that Logan has made it so they can't take off, and various things. But it's also a big episode for Logan because at the very end of the episode we see one of his most humane scenes of the show. Probably his most. Now, I think it's credit to Brian Cox as an actor, because with Logan you're always questioning, is he really being sincere or is there an angle? Is he... Because he's one of those characters where he's very unpredictable. He can snap and change with the wind. So was he being sincere in that scene? But it's a payoff to something which has gone earlier, because Shiv has this line about, we're not talking to Dad until he apologises, and so this at the end of the episode, or near the end, it is him being humbled and apologising, and in some ways some of this is justified, but in that scene you do, or at least I felt a little bit sorry for him. And yeah, again, maybe because of Brian Cox's great acting, you probably felt more sorry for him than you would have done. But yeah, at the same time, I think what's interesting is you see some of the consequences of what he's done to these characters in this scene. You see them, they're truly hurt, and or you see them, they've become monsters because of him. Because to be honest, at the start of the show, although they were probably spoilt brats and they took things for granted, as a lot of people with that sort of money and lifestyle do, at the same time, I don't think they were completely unredeemable monsters. And I think slowly they've been turned into that by being associated with him and the business and wanting to take over the business. As things have heightened over the 4 seasons, I think they've actually become that. It's sort of a sweet gesture by Connor, the way he's trying to bring them together with the father at the end, because he's the one, they're on like his sort of, they've gone out after what was meant to be the rehearsal, which hasn't gone very well, and the siblings don't show up to that. But like later on, he actually stages a deal or a meeting with Logan, with the siblings. Like, he does it on purpose to try and bring them back together. So once again, a lot of sympathy with Connor like that than this. Like, he certainly had his moments where he's not been the most likable, and he is naturally a bit of a joke. That's the character, but he is an innocent bystander in much of this. So this episode does much to humanise him once again. But So the Logan stuff earlier in the episode is you have the really funny line from Greg, which was in the season trailer, I think, about him pacing up and down. He's wearing sunglasses indoors. He looks like a Santa Claus, but like a hitman, or something like that. The line is, but we see vintage Logan once again. He's moaning about the costs rising at his news firm, and we can see he's getting into business mode, whereas in the first episode this season he looked very dejected and he was very subdued. It wasn't like the full-blown Logan we're used to. So this is definitely the sign of him kicking it up a gear again. But yeah, so he's even though profits are once again up the financial year for the news firm, he's moaning about the cost of it, and he's got some great dialogue. This is a classic Logan scene because of it's a rousing speech, but it's also such a bitter speech, and he's also ripping into people and bullying them, which is one of his big MOs. So. But I really love the line about they're like jam stains on the highway. That's a really good one. And of course, the line in the trailer, "We're pirates," which he says with such glee. But also, yeah, the stuff about I want to turn this into build this into a better, wilder. I love the use of the line wilder in that scene. So it's a tremendous speech. Brian Cox in great form in this episode. The other stuff with him, apart from the end, is that once again he's passing the buck. He's trying to get Tom to tell him what he thinks of Carrie and her acting skills, because she wants a career like in the movies in Hollywood, and it's made clear once again because of the power and the influence, then he can get her roles and stuff and make this stuff happen. But so Greg is once again scared of him and being a chicken shit, because the impression is that she's not very good and doesn't have what it takes. And one of the light-hearted scene is like the siblings watching her on the news, because for the time being he's given her a role on the news on the net. I think it's the weather, and they're all ripping the piss out of her, which is fine. It's a funny scene, but I mean, what's sad about the scene is that they're supposed to go off and go to Connor's rehearsal, and they still haven't left because they can't tear themselves away. So there's something quite symbolic about that scene. But when Tom is finally forced to give Logan an answer, he's very diplomatic and political in his language, because he doesn't outright say she can't act or she doesn't have what it takes. He sort of skirts around it and says it might be best to wait and not put her in the spotlight too soon, that kind of thing. And in a way, I'm not saying he's wrong, and as a strategy, you can see how it could work, but it might be for the best. But once again, it's just hilarious. Then her acting career in their minds is really gonna have that much impact either way on how they do, or it's just like this idea of she shouldn't have an acting career, or she should. It's once again, it's her business. If she wants to pursue it, that's fine. But you just see the paranoia and the level of control, and then once again some classic Greg and Tom in this episode, where Tom once again he's ribbing Greg big time, because he first of all he wants him to do his dirty work once again, which is to give her the bad news. But he tells Greg to tell her, then there's a focus group who have decided not to to tell her to call it for the time being, then now isn't the time to pursue the acting career. And she's smart enough to see through this BS. She knows that there wouldn't be any such focus group, especially when Greg can't give her any names, and he has to backtrack on that because he has to pretend that then it's not his place to give names, because he admits that Logan wasn't in it, and someone else he mentions, I think Sydney, wasn't in it, a couple of other people. So she smells bullshit pretty quick, and Kerry's a character I'm enjoying. She's made a really strong start to the show. She's good in that scene, the way she scares the shit out of Greg. So on to the very cringe-worthy rehearsal and post-rehearsal karaoke and drinks, which is a great cap on the episode. So the siblings arrive late for the rehearsal. It's pretty much over. They see Willow on the way out. Willow's another gem of a character. The actress doing a good job, but she's just upset. It's never made clear why she's upset exactly, but just I got the impression it was then again she's being taken advantage of, or it's this wedding isn't just then she's in the background, the wedding plans and everything are being taken over, not just by Connor, but by the rest of the family. It's just once again showing you some of the drawbacks of being married into a rich family, and such a controlling, powerful family where every little detail of everything has to be controlled. So I think that's what this episode is showing you with Willow. But yeah, you get so much hilarious stuff with Connor tracking her on his phone, so following the dots and just saying oh, she's stopped now, oh, she's found a different spot, and just Roman adding stuff in. It's a good episode for Roman, actually, with the end of the episode as well. I think it's between him and Logan for MVP of this one. But it was nice getting more Connor as well. But anyway, yeah, Roman was yes, she found a spot onto someone else's dick, but I'm sure a nice man's dick. And then I love Connor's Willow's in the East River now, and it's as the siblings are talking business. So this is what makes this scene so spot on, so Succession, and so funny is, you get them talking business and not really paying attention to him. So once again, it's a very funny scene, but it's also really awkward, and there's definitely moments where you really feel for Connor in this scene, because again, like everybody else in the family, they're not taking him seriously. But one of the big business-like moments is then we see Alexander Skarsgård again. He talks to Kendall. He's calling off on the deal for now, then he's putting it on pause. Once again, he voices concerns that they're going into aggressive with Logan and making it personal. And I think one of the concerns is probably then you don't really want to make an enemy of Logan. Sex stuff with Roman. The reaction of the other two siblings when they find out he's been texting with Logan, because it's oh, look, there's a second text and portrayal, and you just see how seriously they take this stuff. He said happy birthday, and it's well, what was I supposed to say? Happy birthday, I hope you fall down a flight of stairs. Logan wants Roman back. He wants him back in his team. I want a fire breather, and that is of course Roman. And what I like about this and the stuff with the text is I sort of guessed there was going to be a bit more to the text anyway, but it's almost like you could say the texts are maybe code between the two, that there's contact anyway, whereas the other two siblings seem dead set against having any contact with the father if they can help it, whereas Roman probably still is the little bit closer of the two. So it shows there is a bit more of an open door there. He hasn't made it as much of a vendetta as the other two, I feel. Karaoke style scene, very cringeworthy karaoke, great bad singing from Connor, I've got to say. Connor return home and Willow's there waiting. I sort of feel that's meant to once again show Connor in a more human light, like he's content with his life. I think in his own way he does love Willow, even though a lot of times he's got distracted by other stuff. And Willow returning to as I'm sure she was always going to, but that definitely is meant to show them being quite content, I think, and more sympathetic. Father says to them, I can get you some people, I can get you some crucial investment, and I can make things more attractive for your offer. And they're a bit suspicious about that. And then he says to them, ask for any more money, they're just going to pull out. No, is this more money? Says, oh, it'll be fine. And they're not listening. And once again, for all his faults, Logan is a savvy businessman. He does know his stuff. So you kind of get the impression he's right on this. And again, it's an interesting scene because certainly the way it plays, he is sincere and he does want his family back on his side. It could be part of an ulterior motive. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always, and I'll be back with more Succession soon. Thanks, guys.